Otto Edward Leopold was born in Schunhausen in a wealthy family estate situated in the Prussian province of Saxony. He had two siblings, Bernard and Malwine. Bismarck was educated at Johann Ernst Plamens Elementary School and the Friedrich Wilhelm and Grosskloster secondary schools. From 1832 to 1833, he studied law at the University of Göttingen, where he was a member of the Corps Hannovera, and then enrolled at the University of Berlin. Although Bismarck hoped to become a diplomat, he started his practical training as a lawyer in Aachen and Potsdam, and soon resigned, having first placed his career in jeopardy by taking unauthorized leave to pursue two English girls. He also served in the army for a year and became an officer in the reserve, before returning to run the family estates at Schunhausen on his mother's death in his mid-20s. Around age 30, Bismarck formed an intense friendship with Marie von Theden. Bismarck married Marie's cousin, the noblewoman Johann von Puttkamer, on the 28th of July, 1847. Their long and happy marriage produced 3 children, Mary, Hubert, and Wilhelm. Johanna was a shy and deeply religious woman. Bismarck soon adapted his wife's pietism, and he remained a devout pietist Lutheran for the rest of his life. In 1847, Bismarck, aged 32, was chosen as a representative to the newly created Prussian legislature, the Vereinigter Landtag. There he gained a reputation as a royalist and reactionary politician with a gift for stinging rhetoric. At this stage in his career, he opposed the unification of Germany, arguing that Prussia would lose its independence in the process. He accepted his appointment as one of Prussia's representatives at the Erfurt Parliament, an assembly of German states that met to discuss plans for union, but he only did so to oppose that body's proposal more effectively. The parliament failed to bring about unification. In 1851, Frederick William IV appointed Bismarck as Prussia's envoy to the Diet of the German Confederation in Frankfurt. Bismarck's 8 years in Frankfurt were marked by changes in his political opinions. He grew to be more accepting of the notion of a united German nation. In October of 1857, Frederick William IV suffered a paralyzing stroke, and his brother William took over the Prussian government as regent. The regent soon replaced Bismarck as envoy in Frankfurt and made him Prussia's ambassador to the Russian Empire. In theory, this was a promotion, as Russia was one of Prussia's 2 most powerful neighbors. Bismarck stayed in St. Petersburg for 4 years, during which he almost lost his leg to botched medical treatments. The regent also appointed Helmut von Moltke as the new chief of staff of the Prussian army, and Albrecht von Roon as Minister of War, with the job of reorganizing the army. Over the next 12 years, Bismarck, Moltke, and Roon transformed Prussia. Prince Wilhelm became King of Prussia upon his brother Frederick William IV's death in 1861. On the 23rd of September, 1862, Wilhelm appointed Bismarck Minister-President and Foreign Minister. A German radical named Ferdinand Cohen-Blind attempted to assassinate Bismarck in Berlin, shooting him 5 times at close range. Bismarck somehow had only minor injuries though. Subsequently, Cohen-Blind committed suicide while in police custody. As a result of the Peace of Prague, the German Confederation was dissolved. Prussia annexed Schleswig, Holstein, Frankfurt, Hanover, Hesse-Kassel, and Nassau. Furthermore, Austria had to promise not to intervene in German affairs. To solidify Prussian hegemony, Prussia forced the 21 states north of the River Main to join it in forming the North German Confederation in 1867. A suitable pretext for war arose in 1870 when the German Prince Leopold Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen was offered the Spanish throne. Vacant since a revolution in 1868, France pressured Leopold into withdrawing his candidacy. To provoke France into declaring war with Prussia, Bismarck published the Ems Dispatch, a carefully edited version of a conversation between King Wilhelm and the French ambassador to Prussia, Count Benedetti. This conversation had been edited so that each nation felt that its ambassador had been slighted and ridiculed, thus inflaming popular sentiment on both sides in favor of war. France mobilized and declared war on July 19th. The German states saw France as the aggressor, and they rallied Prussia's side and provided troops. Both of Bismarck's sons served as officers in the Prussian cavalry. The war was a great success for Prussia, as the German army, controlled by Chief of Staff Moltke, won victory after victory. The major battles were all fought within 1 month, and both French armies were captured at Sedan and Metz, the latter after a siege of some weeks. Napoleon III was taken prisoner at Sedan, and kept in Germany for a time in case Bismarck had need of him to head the French regime. While the war was in its final phase, Wilhelm I of Prussia was proclaimed German Emperor on the 18th of January 1871 in the Hall of Mirrors in the Château de Versailles. In 1871, Bismarck was raised to the rank of Prince. He was also appointed as the first imperial chancellor of the German Empire, but retained his Prussian offices, including those of minister-president and foreign minister. He was also promoted to the rank of lieutenant general. Because of both the imperial and Prussian offices that he held, Bismarck had nearly complete control over domestic and foreign policy. Well aware that Europe was skeptical of his powerful new Reich, Bismarck turned his attention to preserving peace in Europe based on a balance of power that would allow Germany's economy to flourish. In 1872, a protracted quarrel began to fester between Bismarck and Count Harry von Arnim, the imperial ambassador to France. Arnim saw himself as a rival and competitor for the chancellorship, but the rivalry escalated out of hand, and Arnim took sensitive records from embassy files at Paris to back up his case. He was formally accused of misappropriating official documents, indicted, tried, and convicted, finally fleeing into exile where he died. No one again openly challenged Bismarck in foreign policy matters until his resignation. The establishment of the German colonial empire proceeded smoothly. Starting with German New Guinea, Bismarck joined the scramble for Africa. Germany's new colonies included Togoland, German Cameroon, German East Africa, and German Southwest Africa. The Berlin Conference established regulations for the accusations of African colonies. In particular, it protected free trade in certain parts of the Congo Basin. In 1888, Kaiser Wilhelm I died, leaving the throne to his son Friedrich III. The new monarch was already suffering from cancer of the larynx and died after reigning for only 99 days. He was succeeded by his son Wilhelm II, who opposed Bismarck's careful foreign policy, preferring vigorous and rapid expansion to enlarge Germany's place in the sun. Bismarck did not expect he would live to see Wilhelm ascend to the throne and thus had no strategy to deal with him. Conflicts between Wilhelm and his chancellor soon poisoned their relationship. Their final split occurred after Bismarck tried to implement far-reaching anti-socialist laws in early 1890, was willing to make most of the laws permanent. Bismarck resigned at Wilhelm II's insistence on the 18th of March 1890 at the age of 75. After his dismissal, he was promoted to the rank of Colonel General with the dignity of Field Marshal, so called because the German army did not appoint full field marshals in peacetime. Bismarck entered into resentful retirement, living in Friedrichsruh near Hamburg and sometimes on his estates in Varzin, and waited in vain to be called upon for advice and counsel. After his wife's death, his health worsened, and 1 year later he was finally confined to a wheelchair. In December 1897, Wilhelm visited Bismarck for the last time. Bismarck again warned him about the dangers of improvising government policy based on the intrigues of courtiers and militarists. The year before his death, Bismarck predicted, "One day the great European war will come out of some damn foolish thing in the Balkans." Bismarck spent his final years composing his memoirs. It was in 1896 that Bismarck's health began to fail. He was diagnosed with gangrene in his foot but refused to accept treatment for it. He died just after midnight on July 30th, 1898, at the age of 83 in Friedrichsruh, where he is entombed at the Bismarck Mausoleum. The first monument built in his honor was the one at Bad Kissingen, erected in 1877. Numerous statues and memorials dot the cities, towns, and countrysides of Germany, including the famous Bismarck Memorial in Berlin and numerous Bismarck towers on 4 continents. 2 warships were named in his honor, the SMS Bismarck of the German Imperial Navy and the infamous Bismarck of World War II.